Hey everybody, this is Dream, and we have a 3-game NBA slate. Before I get started, can you guys smash that like and subscribe button? I hope the video audio is okay. It seems like it's weird this morning, but just let me know in the comments if there's any issues. With that said, let's go ahead and get into the slate here. So we have a pretty interesting injury report today. So we'll start with Cleveland. Mitchell is questionable. Garland and Jarrett Allen are both out. And then we're going to look at the Suns here, and it looks like Beal is still out, and Booker is doubtful or questionable. Looks like he's probably closer to doubtful today. For Orlando, Gary Harris and Ingles are both somewhat questionable, but they may both play. And then for the Clippers, we have Zubac and Powell being questionable, and then we have a bunch of guys who have been traded from the Clippers to the 76ers. So, these guys are not going to be playing today, and Covington and Batum, KJ Martin, and etc. So that's going to limit some of the options that they have, which actually gives us some good fantasy plays on this particular slate. But overall, it's a pretty interesting slate. It's only a small one, so we have 3 interesting games here. So let's go ahead and get into this one here first. So we'll start with our point guards. Our top overall guy is going to be Brunson. Now Brunson, he's one of the only guys that's actually pretty expensive for the guards on this front. He has a nice potential today, as he's got a good matchup against Cleveland, a team he did pretty well against last season in the playoffs. I expect him to come in here with a lot of effort to try to get this win. And Cleveland's defense against point guards has actually been pretty bad, so he has some utility here. I do like his fantasy output and his price today, so he's a viable play on this slate here. We'll also look at Bones Highland for the Clippers. Now he should get some minutes today. He's been pretty solid as a backup to Westbrook mostly so far this season, and he's played about 20 minutes a game and scored around 20 fantasy points a game. So he's right in line with his price. I do think he definitely has some potential to get some more minutes today, and that will give him some upside here. He's a pretty good scoring guard, so I think he has some potential on this particular slate. We'll also look at Jordan Goodwin for the Phoenix Suns. This is assuming that Booker is out. He's played two games with Booker out, and he's done pretty solid in those games. I look for him to have some upside, though. He is high risk, high reward, as he kind of is. His price is not cheap anymore, so you know I still like him, but I think he definitely has some risk associated. And then I'm also going to mention Cole Anthony. Now he's coming off the bench for Orlando, but he's played pretty solid for this team, and his minutes are pretty good. He didn't have his best game yesterday, but overall his price is just too cheap for his production. And as long as he can get over 25 minutes, he'll definitely have some potential to have a good game here. Especially with the limits that the Clippers will probably have today. So you could also consider Russell Westbrook at this position. Maybe in a short shooting guard here. Paul George is the top overall guy here at this position. Now he's been really solid to start the season. He hasn't got the highest of ceilings because of all the teammates that he has, but he definitely has a pretty good floor right now. He's playing well. He's getting a lot of steals though, so do keep that in mind because that does help boost your stats some. But he is shooting the ball at least 15 times per game, and he's scoring right around the fantasy points he needs, and his price has dropped as a result. And so that gives him some utility on the slate. Karis LeVert for Cleveland is going to be probably a must-play core play today, assuming that Mitchell gets ruled out. LeVert is going to have all the minutes he can handle. With Garland already out, he's going to have a boost anyway, but his price is still pretty good, though it has popped up a little bit. He definitely has some potential in this game to have a big game, as he has the highest ceiling as anybody on the slate, and so that gives him a lot of potential in this one. His teammate Max Struss also in play, as he's been pretty solid so far this season, and he's played over 35 minutes in all 3 games so far. Obviously, his floor is a little bit lower than I'd like, but he does have that big time potential as well. And while his price has popped up as a result of the situation there, he's got all the minutes he can handle right now, so that gives him a lot of potential. You could also consider Cole Anthony, Eric Gordon, and Grayson Allen at this position, as they have some utility as well if Booker is ruled out. So looking at our small forwards here, then we're going to say, well, Karis LeVert and Max Struss can also play here. But Okogie for Phoenix is also in play as a value play. Now, he's $4,200. His price has actually come back down a little bit. Started at $4,000 at the beginning of the season. He had a really bad game against Utah where he really just didn't do much. I think he got, the matchup was not particularly good for him. It looks like today he'll have a much better situation against the Spurs. Obviously, he has some potential. His floor again is not as high as what you want, but he does have sorry, his ceiling is not as high as I like, but he does have a pretty good floor. And even though he did have a bad game in the last game, I look for him to bounce back in this one. And he's just a cheap play that you can kind of mix and match in with some of the other Phoenix cheap options on the slate. You could also consider Eric Gordon and Grayson Allen at this position. Moving to power forward, Kevin Durant is a great option today. Obviously, he's going to be, if Booker is ruled out for sure too, he's going to be the big time on campus guy for the Suns, excuse me, and he's got a nice plus match appearance the Spurs. I don't think Wemby's going to be able to guard him very well, so I expect him to have a big game, and he'll probably try to show out a little bit in this one. And it's probably the best matchup that they've had this season so far because they faced some pretty tough defensive teams on the season so far with the Warriors and the Jazz. Obviously, against the Lakers, he did really well, and I look for a game more like that where he's going to have a lot of opportunity to get a lot of shots and get some rebounds and stuff like that. So I look for him to have a really solid game today, and he's definitely a great option at this price. Not only that, but with all the value that's opened up for between the Clippers, the Cavs, and the Spurs, and the Suns, then you can definitely fit him in there. Then we're going to look at Julius Randle. Now he's got some interesting upside in this game. This is kind of a weirdly plus matchup for him, though he didn't do very good against the Pelicans. He's had two really solid games, and his price has actually gone down. I like this upside in this matchup. He's got double doubles in all three games, which gives him a high floor. So he does have a good potential, though. If he does have a repeat of the 8 turnovers he did against the Pelicans, then that would be a disappointment. That said, if you took away those 8 turnovers and that's 4 fantasy points right there that he lost, he'd be over 32 fantasy points on that game. So he's definitely got a pretty good floor. Just needs to put it together again. But he's got a good potential option here. So then we'll look at Evan Mobley. Now, Mobley has been really solid with Jarrett Allen out. His first game was kind of rough, but he seems like he's rounded into form in the last 2 games, especially if Mitchell is ruled out. That would give him a lot of boost as he's going to have a lot more usage as a result. As you can see between the games, Mitchell missed the last game and he went absolutely bonkers against Indianapolis. So I expect a similar type of game if Mitchell's out, though his price has also popped up, so do keep that in mind. You could also consider Dean Wade at this position, though he is high risk, high reward. And then looking at centers, Julius Randle and Evan Mobley can both play there. But if you want to go with a traditional center, then Nurkic would probably be the way to go today, as he has good upside, though he's been up and down throughout the season so far. He definitely has some potential in this one against the Spurs. But he definitely has a very low floor and a pretty good ceiling. So, the floor is a concern, but he's definitely capable. And if Booker is ruled out, then he will be the number 2 option on this team, which gives him some utility. So, with that said, guys, thank you for liking, commenting, subscribing. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to leave them below. And have a nice day, guys.